Trustee Ramos Herbert is not going to be with us tonight. She had a conflict. So we'll go ahead and start on the agenda. Do you, Damon, want to say anything at the beginning, or I don't know. I don't know what the timing is.
You're very out of it. You're like...
I am a little tired due to events that have occurred over the last couple of days, most of which are very happy events for me. But the sad event is that having been elected to County Board of Legislators, I'm no longer eligible to be on this board. We can't hold two elective offices at once in this state. And I will be resigning, and in fact, I'll be resigning effective the end of this meeting, so that you folks will have a little bit of economy of effort in filling two seats and getting them filled before the budget season. I'm truly going to miss working with the current members of the board and those who have gone on before, thinking especially of George Michael and Emery Schweig and Hannah Just Michael. Not that they've gone on to their award, they moved elsewhere and they're no longer on the board. And it's been a pleasure thoroughly to get to know Tom Giaffino, administration and staff of the library, truly dedicated and wonderful people, dedicated to the mission of this library, which is not just a stack of books, although the books are very important part of our community. I've often said that the heart and soul of our community. And just once again, I'd like to reiterate certain principles I laid out and put online as part of the record about a year ago to a meeting with respect to what happens with this building or doesn't happen to this building in terms of downtown development. And I feel more strongly about them as time goes on, and having heard from all of you over time, and I hope the board member as newly constituted will consider those as well. And for those of you who haven't read them, I suggest you read them if you haven't, reread if you read them initially. But you know, the first 2 points are very important and reflect, I think, our community. And that is, if there happens to be a deal involving construction of a new library, it's got to be immediately adjacent to the library green, accessible by foot, with no intervening vehicular traffic whatsoever between the library and the sort of, I don't know, the green. I mean, I guess the touchstone or the watchword I've had is, you know, Ruby D. Park needs to be near the Ossie Davis Theater, no matter where whether it's a new Ossie Davis Theater or not. And secondly, no tear down before there is a place for us to move into. You know, I point to the horrible example of the Donnell Library in New York City, where there was no library there for 8 years. There was a demolition. Financing fell through in the 2008 financial crisis, and it took 8 years to put a new library there. And P.S., in my opinion, it's a pretty ugly library. If you're ever at the Museum of Modern Art, cross the street to where the new library is, I find it, you know, it's in a high-rise. Entrance is on the street, but that's about all there is an entrance. It's pretty, in my opinion, pretty soulless, ugly kind of place. It doesn't open till 11 a.m. Certainly not the kind of thing we want. I mean, Manhattan has certain other community and cultural centers, you know, that people could go to during those 8 years and can go to now. Again, New Rochelle has this space as a very important community center, cultural center. There are things happening here every Sunday. Please go to those, support all the other activities here, and thank you for the opportunity of serving here.
Thank you, Damon, and on behalf of the rest of the board, we very much thank you for your service and the contributions that you've made over the last couple of years, and we are very sad to see you go, but very happy for you.
Thank you.
So thank you. Just moving on to the first item on the agenda, unfinished business, the downtown development update. There is no update from last time, that the agreement that we have in our possession that we've discussed in the past is with our attorney for his review and for his comments, and so that that is sort of in process, and we await his comments and thoughts, which will sort of have bearing, obviously, on what we do next or don't do next, and so there's no update beyond that. The other item of unfinished business is the vacant. So before Damon's, well, Damon hasn't resigned, but assuming Damon resigns at the end of the meeting, prior to that, Heinous Just Michael, one of the trustees, had resigned in the recent past, and so we had issued a call for interested parties to submit information on their sort of background and why they were interested in serving in the role, and so we got a number of candidates, I think eight in all.
Seven, one withdrew.
One withdrew. So we conducted actually some interviews, but we haven't been able to talk to everybody yet because of travel schedules of one of the applicants. So we had hoped to make an appointment at today's meeting. We're not going to be able to make an appointment at today's meeting. I fully expect that we'll do that at the next meeting. I don't think it'll take any longer than that. And we would have liked to have done it this meeting, but schedules just didn't come together. I think that's the unfinished business. We can move to perhaps the other trustee position when we get to the personnel committee later. With that, do you want to do that now? We can do that now.
I'm doing it for the personnel?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we can. So for the second, assuming we have a second vacant position with Damon's resignation, we're going to put out another sort of encourage people to submit applications. We want to give folks another chance. We did have some people that were interested that didn't make the deadline for the current position that we're looking to fill. So we will, maybe we'll talk for a minute now about the timeline on that. I mean, Tom, is that something we'd be able to sort of issue pretty immediately?
Barbara Davis, who is our community relations coordinator, is out of the country. She's in La Rochelle as part of the New Rochelle delegation. And she's the person that is really fully hooked into that. She will be back next week.
Okay.
And I can email her in advance and ask her to prepare that. Okay. So if we could just delay until her return, we could push everything forward and do it the same way in terms of social media, Facebook, use our website, have signage in English and Spanish throughout the building that will inform people that yet another vacancy has come open. Okay. So we're looking for interested parties.
Okay, great. And I'd like to make sure we leave sort of a 2-week time frame for people to submit, but ideally, if we can get it out there early next week, in an ideal world, again, it'd be great to fill both positions at the next meeting.
That can be the goal.
Yeah, that'll be the goal, but I want to make sure we give people at least 2 weeks
especially
to submit.
Yeah, you're getting into the budget process very soon,
Yep.
and I think you want a full
Agreed.
slate of
Agreed. So that'll be the process for filling the additional vacancy on the board. So with that, we'll move to public discussion. First on the list is Dan Miller.
If you would, right in there, the wireless speaker is.
We should mention the historic nature of this meeting.
Big time.
First televised meeting?
First televised
Yes,
meeting.
this is our first televised meeting, and actually, we have really Marjorie to thank for continuing to come back and ask us. And so we all wanted to do it, but we're glad that it's happening. The lights are on.
And so where's
See?
this being rebroadcast so we can all see it?
Yes.
Throughout the world.
Well, is this live now?
It is not live, not yet, but our long-term solution will be to have a system that we will install in here, courtesy of the city and the PEG grant, and we'll be able to not only have something loaded on our website, also on cable, the local cable station, but also we expect to have it streaming too as well. But since this is our embryonic effort and we are not fully functional, we're lucky enough to have an experienced videographer where we will put it on our website and we'll put it on our local cable channels.
Hi. Is this doing something?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. First, I'd just like to add my voice, Damon, to congratulate you. It's a great thing, and I think I and many of us are going to miss you on this board and appreciate your service to the community through your presence on this board.
Can I just promise that I'm going to be sitting out there with you many months now, watching these guys?
Well, okay. We'll look forward to it.
Thank you.
Got that on tape.
That's right. That's right. You know, and I appreciate you making reference to the document that you created, which I also urge everyone to read. I have here a copy of a letter that many of us signed and submitted to the board, both in hard copy and in email. And we appreciate your email response to us, recognizing your receipt of it. So I'd like to give this to you again, really just to
Sure, thank you.
sure. Just to have the minutes reflect that this letter's been submitted in hard copy, and our request that it be entered into the public record. And then I just want to say that, you know, I, as many of us here, and, you know, I'm one of the many taxpayers and homeowners in New Rochelle who signed this letter, who agree with it and support it, and feel strongly that I and many of us would not accept the library board entering into a contract with RXR or really any other developer. I think you know there are many of us who love this library. We want it to stay as it is, where it is. And, you know, we'll work with you all to accomplish that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I just drop this?
You're passing the baton.
Dropping the mic.
Mr. Miller, the baton is
Adam Deutscher?
It's different under the lights. I also want to congratulate Damon and thank you for your service, and really thank you all for your service. I'm relatively new to coming to these meetings, and I really appreciate what you all are doing. I would like to echo what Dan said. Also, I am one of the many people who signed that letter as a taxpayer and homeowner in New Rochelle, someone who comes to the library often. I'm actually kicking myself because I had things to return that I forgot at home, and I have to come back here tomorrow.
Cut the mic.
But, you know, but all kidding aside, I really feel strongly about my love for the library and keeping it as is, and I am one of many who just feel it's unacceptable to enter into any agreement with RXR, at the basic level of having them run a evaluation of the property. And I know that many people feel the same way, and I hope we do the same. Thank you. Listen.
Thank you. Nora Lamorin?
Good evening. Congratulations, Damon. And thank you to all of you for your service. I, again, am one of the many taxpayers and residents who signed that letter, who love this library desperately. And I can't imagine any circumstances under which moving this library would make sense. I work here a few days a week. I work with different parts of the population that use this library. And I really see its place, where it is, and how it is as crucial to the service that it provides. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee Barnes? Thank you. Seth Marcusfeld?
Congratulations, Damon. It's on. I too am one of the many taxpayers and residents in New Rochelle that like to see the library stay the way it is without any deals that are binding with any entity like ours are. Thanks.
Thank you. Lourdes Font?
You guys just had to do this before my getting my hair done. Thank you.
Me too.
Yeah. I want to thank all of you. First of all, Damon, congratulations. We're not surprised. We're very pleased for your success. And you're continuing to serve the city of New Rochelle as well as you have in the past. And I really appreciate this group of people. I go to the city council every once in a while and, see the faces that are not paying attention or the faces that would rather be somewhere else. I don't get that sense from all of you. I get the sense that you are really trying to do the best that you can. You're trying to listen to the public and you're trying to respect and honor this space. And I want to support that. I also signed the document, the letter. I believe very strongly in what it says. I wish that you keep this incredible cultural center of New Rochelle exactly the way it is. And I will support what you do, but hope that you really don't let yourself stay in the hands of the developers because they don't have your interest at heart. They have their own interest at heart. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Marjorie Sachs.
So congratulations, Damon, and thank you for your service. I really appreciate that. And thank you for the work you did to get this to be recorded so that people who aren't able to come here will be able to see that. So I appreciate all your efforts in that. I also want to just say that the exhibit out there for the veterans is very powerful. And it's beautiful to walk in and see that there and to have them honored with their day tomorrow. But it's really very, very moving. So thank you for that. We're sparing you from reading the letter, but we put a lot of effort into that, and a lot of people worked hard at that. And there were many signatures on it, but there are many, many other people who we represent. Damon, you mentioned the Donnell Library. I actually was at it's now called the 53rd Street Library today, and I was also struck at the ugliness of this building. It is soulless. It is noisy. It is half of what it was when it was the Donnell Library, and they said that it's 7% of the books that used to be there. So this is what happens when buildings are destroyed and new things are put in a modern way in a high-rise building. I really encourage you, if you haven't gone there, to visit it because it's very powerful. And this is what you're potentially up against. I do have a question, and I don't know that you're going to be able to answer this, but the term fiduciary responsibility, which we refer to again and again in the letter, is something that I would really like for you to define for me and for us. And I don't know if that's something that you're prepared to do tonight, or if that's something that you could do in a response to the letter. Because it sounds like there's a lot of different opinions about what fiduciary responsibility is, and I'd really like to know as a board how you define that and how you see that, so that the public understands your definition of it and your sense of it, so that we can then respond to you. Because my bet is that we disagree with some of you about what that is. Because when there's fiduciary responsibility, there's also fiduciary irresponsibility. And as the public it's really important that we be able to confront you if we feel like there isn't fiduciary irresponsibility. So I don't know if you're prepared to
No, we'll take
respond
that
to
under consideration. Thank you.
Okay. One other question, again, in appreciation of the recording. I just wanted to know, I have some questions about what actually is the public record for the library, and do the comments and everything that's said in the recording, does that become part of the public record? And I realize you may not have the answer to that either, but that is something that I would really appreciate getting the public an answer to, is what goes in the public record, how you can submit something for the public record, if what is said by the public in the public speaking part becomes part of the public record if it's not reflected in the minutes, now that things are being recorded. So that's just I know it's new that it's being recorded, so I don't expect an answer at this point, but I think it would be an important thing for the public to know. And I, too, am a taxpayer and a resident of New Rochelle. And
Just your overtime, so you can just wrap up.
okay, I'm just about finished. And I agree with everything in the letter, and I implore you not to go into any contract with RXR. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, move on to approval of the minutes. I had a look at the minutes. I had one change in the board member search. Yeah, there's a typo, I think.
Right?
2 openings for the election of trustees for, it's like 2A, 5. I think
Two
it's 2.
five-year.
I think you just moved to A.
Yep.
Typo.
But there would be 3 seats up for election in May.
It says 2 5-year terms and a 3rd opening for a 1-year term.
'Cause my term was up in any event, I believe yours, and now we have to fill the rest of Haynes.
Which is a 1 year remaining after June 2018.
Where this is reflecting pre-David.
Right. Well, it's really the same. My term was up in any event, so it's the same number of
Got it.
seats, 3 seats. And again, the apportionment of who gets what seats is based on total number of votes. I guess those who get the first and second highest totals will get the full 5-year term, and whoever comes in 3rd place gets the 1-year term, and everybody else gets nothing.
Does anybody else have any other changes to the minutes?
I'm assuming the people were the public was to be here last time around.
Yeah.
That should be some sort of summary of what was said. Not person by person basis.
I guess I would ask
What topics would be-
I would ask the director to sort of perhaps research kind of what the standard is for how much detail is recorded in minutes for the public to be heard section.
When we introduced this section, I utilized as my resource, right or wrong, the city of New Rochelle, the city council meetings, and usually it's a listing of the names of people who spoke and their address, whether it be home or email. But I'll
Perhaps you
I'll
could check with the
investigate.
WLS and sort of check with the state and see if there's any other sort of guidance.
Absolutely.
I mean, my gut is, unless it's recorded, you don't want to put words in people's
No,
mouths,
oh,
because
golly,
it's
no.
kinda scary.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think I'd be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But so if you could look into that.
I will most definitely, and I'll report back to the board at its next meeting.
That would be great. Any other items on the minutes?
The typo in the front. First paragraph.
Can you get that one?
I think we got that.
We got that one.
I don't see anything else.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Minutes approved. Financial reports. Jean, I know you circulated, the audit's been completed, correct?
Yeah.
And so I think we've got in here, the audited financials, including the fund balance, right?
You do. Right, Chuck, this sheet. It's the summary.
Okay.
The basic summary.
Yeah, so the fund balance basically stayed flat year over year, just about. Our total fund balance in end of 2016 was 1.056 million total, 823 million unrestricted.
Thousand.
Yeah, sorry. If only.
If only, yeah.
Build 10 new libraries.
Do I hear a motion?
823,000 unrestricted, and then and this year it's 1.84 million total, so minimal change, slightly higher, and then unrestricted 806,000 versus 823 last year. So I think that's good. With a tight budget, we managed to sort of not spend materially down the fund balance and still maintain what I think we've determined now, based on the guidance we've gotten from our attorney, is a reasonable amount of fund balance relative to our total budget. Excellent. Jean, is there anything you want to highlight on the audited financials? Anything that was sort of different than expected that was material? Okay. Okay. So in case you can't hear on the video, Jean said nothing out of the ordinary, and sort of the audit came in as expected. So I don't think we have anything else on the financial reports.
I think at next month's meeting, I will be ready to discuss the end of the year, June 2017, the budget year that was completed. We can highlight that, and that document's extremely useful because that will provide a barometer of where we go in terms of planning for our budget request for FY 2018-19.
Great. Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Is there anything you want to highlight, Tom, on the statistics?
Just that again. The use of the library is heavy. It's changing. Books are still a cornerstone, but we're and still loaning them. But not as popular as in previous years. But that seems to be not just a local, but a county and a national phenomenon. But what we're seeing is a heavy usage in more non-traditional areas. Might be our non-print collection or our electronic databases, our program attendance. For example, our museums, through the foundation support, we have a very popular Museum Pass program. We see lots of usage there. Our computer logons through our own computers is high, one of the highest in the county. Wi-Fi connections, which is tremendously popular now. Many people come to the library and use the library as an office, is extremely high too. So we see constant usage, and just in different sorts of ways. And we're trying to tack our sales to, the residents and what they need.
That's great. Thank you, Tom. WLS report, Dr. Gray.
Yes, I attempted to multitask. I was on the phone until I could come in here, and I do have two.
Dr. Gray.
I do have two items. The first is the resolve for WLS of the Central Library issue, and I believe that if you didn't get the report, you did get it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. Of course not, and I hope that if you do next month, you can ask me questions. Let me just try to briefly. First of all, there were 7 meetings, of which 2 were in the public in Mount Vernon. The Mount Vernon residents were very, very eager to get their voices heard and their feelings known, and so both of those meetings were very well attended. The Central Library has become an anchor of pride for the Mount Vernon community. Then there were meetings with focus groups, but the most important meetings were with the state, if you read it. The state made it very clear that WLS has the right to determine the Central Library. there was a lot of discussion about what that really means. And of course, in 2017, it doesn't mean what it meant in 1901 or 1929 or 1940. Digitization is becoming the way in technology. And so one can be sitting in the Pound Ridge Library and actually reach into all the stacks at some point all over the county. That will come. We're already into, we're into a lot of that already. But that did not sway the sense of, yeah, that may be true, but the Central Library. So the Central Library is not a brick and mortar place. It used to be, but it's not. With that being said, the decision of the committee that made the recommendation to the SS board was to leave the Central Library in Mount Vernon, to work through all of the other issues. So at that board meeting, we had about 60 Mount Vernon residents. They were really, it was really a nice way of looking at how public can interact with a board that's making a decision about the quality of their own place. And so there were people who got up and spoke. And in the end, they accepted the report. The board also accepted the report. There are two changes. One is that the decision about the budget of the Central Library will be made by a committee, which will include representatives from the SS board, which will include the Mount Vernon representative. Because of the pride and because of the time that we live in, as you probably saw the report, the issue of race did enter into the discussion. And I just want to report how I responded as your, oh God, this is mine. As your representative. When the actual request to look at the Central Library came from the public library directors themselves. It was not any board member of any library. Although, as both David and I were able to point out, since we've been there for a while, that at one point Yonkers was interested in the Central Library as well as White Plains, absolutely White Plains. And, you know, obviously they've got, and the notion that you have to have one book in a Central is no longer there. That used to be true. You needed a copy of every book, and that's not true anymore. But because of the pride and because of a library that's been under siege, remember this is a library that was flooded some time ago, and the question was, did they lose books? And it just has had a lot of negative press over time. So you can understand the feeling of the residents. And so our board did not enter into a big dialogue, although it was there. And as your representative, I turned to the public and said, I understand, I'm sensitive to how you feel. I understand it. However, I do not believe that that's the discussion at this point. The discussion is how can we help you, and we can help each other to move the library forward. They have some work to do, and I said that, and I turned to our executive director. I didn't say you had work to do, Terry. I said the Mount Vernon board and its director has some work to do, and we hope we can help. And so we left it that way, and I think we'll move forward in a very nice way. At some point, the question of the Central Library is going to come up again because of technology. It may be 10 years from now, but it will happen. So that's the Central Library.
Is that a decision that's made yearly? Or?
No, it hasn't been done in the past because we always just first of all, they were in trouble with the state. So the state got in touch with us. It's like when it was a Briarcliff who wasn't living up to their hours, and we became involved in that. So no, one of our libraries in our county asked to have the question raised again. So that's what happened.
So that can happen anytime?
It won't happen for a while because of the report. The report, if you read the report thoroughly, it's pretty clear. And the state is very well aware. There's no need to do anything. We decided. They said we could decide. We decided that it will stay there. Okay? Any questions about the report if you had a chance to look at it at all? It's a long report, but it's pretty thorough. Okay? The second issue will come at our next board meeting, and so I want you to be aware of it. I'm sure you don't have time to discuss it tonight because I didn't bring it to your attention until tonight, and I apologize for that. The E-rate is up again. Now, as you know, WLS refused the money. That impacted all 38 libraries because if we're not doing it. If we're not getting the money because it comes to us, then you don't get it. It has become, unless something changes, and I don't think anything will change in this budget cycle, I'm talking about the federal budget cycle. And you can interrupt Tom or Greg to explain the E-rate problem and why WLS voted against it. You were a split board at the time, and you gave me the authority to vote my own conscience as a member of WLS, but to report the New Rochelle decision. If you remember, someone came down, our president at that time came down to talk to you. There's quite a bit of money involved now. And so the question is, you know, do we want to keep that same position? And so if I'll ask Greg to explain the privacy issue.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're an attorney, so or is there another attorney on the board? Damon can do it.
Take the, no, take the microphone. I want you to.
My recollection is generic, that it was a matter of if you accepted the money, it was a matter of whether that database is then accessible.
People's usage of
It was a filtering issue, that the federal government tied acceptance of E-rate money to the concept that WLS in this instance would filter internet access and filter out what the government considered unacceptable websites that might relate to pornography or hate, et cetera. And of course, the vote ultimately from the WLS board was that it was the idea of filtering is unacceptable. It's an effort that is usually difficult to make a success because filtering filters out things that are unacceptable and also sites that are acceptable, and basically who are we to decide, you know, for other people. And so WLS as executive board chose to withdraw acceptance of E-rate money for that very reason. But once again, it's coming back, as LaRuth so well stated.
And we have a couple of libraries in the county that do filter at this present time. So it's a discussion that you need to have and decide how you want to help guide WLS. Most of us, I try always to represent you, so when I voted, I mean, I was with the majority of our board. Our board didn't want it. But I also reported, and as I said, and this time I'll have the president come down again, I reported your vote, which was a split vote. So that's that issue. It is something that you really should discuss because it's a serious issue. I'm not sure where our executive director is, or at least I don't know if PLDA is the public library director.
You know, to date it has not. PLDA, the Public Library Directors Association, is meeting next Thursday. I believe that that's on the agenda. The agenda has not been sent out to the directors, but it's likely going to be part of the conversation. And the directors in the county, for the most part, have generally been against the concept of filtering. Most libraries do not filter, at least in this county, with a few notable exceptions. Our library, for our own computers, we do not filter.
So this will be an item for discussion purposes at the next meeting?
Oh, good, I can be a citizen to be heard and urge us to continue the policy we've had in the past. And I think the consensus.
Yeah, but you're limited to 2 minutes.
Oh, no, I thought we had 4.
I have a question.
I mean, it's kind of about the First Amendment, which is kind of a big deal.
Is that something that was referred to the policy committee last time to come up with?
No, I think it went to the board as a whole.
It went to the board, and that's where I was.
And how many years ago was this?
3.
So you're thinking that we're gonna have to come back, you guys are gonna make a decision about this again, right?
Okay. So should we be in a position to have an opinion by the next, like the discussion at the next meeting?
No, I think
or?
we'll go on for a couple of months.
Okay. But we should start talking about it.
Keeping in mind that we have guidelines if there's offensive material on a screen. And we're monitoring.
We are staff.
Librarians are monitoring that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's an offensive image, our staff will ask the patron to cease and desist, and if they choose not to, we will essentially take them offline. The idea of objectionable images in the library, it's a form of harassment, it's inappropriate, but we have not filtered, most libraries do not filter, with a few exceptions.
There are a few in the county, but most do not filter, so. I just think it's a discussion.
Yep.
In light of our times, in light of technology, in light of so much, you just need to know what you want
Yep.
to do as a board about your public's.
LaRuth, do you think at some point when the board is ready to discuss this matter, the president of your board
Oh, I
might,
think she would be happy to come. It's still Kathy.
Kathy Draper
Yeah,
from
she
Pelham?
Probably, if she's matured, but yes, we can facilitate that if we need to. The only other thing I want to just let you know, we are looking at e-content and whether or not we want, the PLD is looking at that. And the other thing is that on the central budget, there will be not bipartisan, how do I put it in my head? There will be a committee that includes library directors from other places, so it'll be like the same way we handle the grants. Okay, it won't just be PLD, but it will be so that there is, we want to assure Mount Vernon that we want to be supported.
Oh, absolutely. And PLDA will be voting on the databases that will likely be taken offline per the e-content committee at this November meeting, and choosing to add ones as well,
And
which our
that's such a
staff is
moving
looking
target.
at.
Isn't it interesting how fast databases become obsolete?
And it's a bit of a problem because one of the databases that they're urging discontinuation is Ancestry.com, which is a great product, not available at home, available here. And our library, we have a strong historical, collection and people interested. Losing this great genealogical database is a loss. So I think we're going to argue that at next week's meeting.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. President's report. I'm going to cede to the director.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. Just a fairly brief report on things that I've discussed at previous meetings. I usually start off with grants, and as you folks know, we have received our theater HVAC grant, which was a New York State Library construction grant. And now that we have this grant, the clock is ticking for movement for starting the project. And now that the library is in possession of a fully executed audit by the auditors, we have a sense of where we stand. And I'm hoping that either the Buildings and Grounds Committee or the Finance Committee will be meeting in the near future so we can talk about how we can go forward. We certainly have quite a bit of money in our capital account to complete this project along with this $80,000 grant, but there is still a gap that we need to discover where we're going to obtain this money so we can move forward. So I'm
Finance
urging.
Committee will meet.
Great.
And come back with a proposal.
Second grant, which we're about to start, is the replacement window project at the Huguenot Children's Library. We received $30,000 from the state for that, and we're in the process of moving forward. We may begin perhaps as soon as December to execute this project. The circulation area grant that we just received, word, $275,000. Very exciting. That is still wending its way through Albany, which will take quite a while. We normally hear a formal confirmation in June of next year, 2018, and typically receive the grant monies sometime in the summer, August, maybe September.
So when do you think we'd actually start to see that?
What we need to do is, again, with that project, because we were fortunate enough to be fully funded, 75% of the project was funded, the best grant that we received in all the years, there's still a gap of $90,000. And we could use our fund balance. We could go out and ask for a bond, depending upon what the Finance Committee decides to do. We've had concerted conversations with our foundation to see if they will assist us to close that gap. They certainly have, with a plethora of projects that we have done in the library, theater, children's space, adult space, teen space, computer training lab. So they have a history of stepping up and giving us the match money so that we can obtain these state grants. If all things go as we plan, we would love to start this project in December of 2018. December tends to be a quieter month because of the holiday season. People aren't in, and so we think that would be a good time to go forward.
The library's looking very good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we are it's our pleasure to make it as attractive and safe as possible. One more grant that we're waiting on. It's a smaller grant, but yet an important one, $10,000 from the Mary Smart Foundation, and that will allow us to convert our Friends Bookstore, old Friends Bookstore, into a volunteer space where people can come and meet and work on projects, etc. So that's an important grant that should be arriving soon. My next brief comments have to do with our upcoming Thanksgiving parade, which is on November 18th, a Saturday. The library will once again participate, thanks to the leadership of Chris Ellen and the foundation, and the Friends, and the Partnership for the Huguenot Children's Library. We had a fantastic float last year. We had trustees that marched with a banner. We made quite a presence. Again, foundation, Friends, and Partnership have gathered together, have met, and are planning our strategy for reviving the float yet another year. And so trustees are asked to participate. If they have young children, the young children could sit on the float, or older people could sit on the float. So that's a project, that's an effort that's going forward. I've sent out emails, as well as Chris Ellen has sent out emails, gathering in front of the Huguenot Children's Library at 9 o'clock on the 18th. Prior to that, there is the pancake breakfast, which is also a nice thing to do in relation to the school district.
And if you need a T-shirt, let Chris know what size. I think they're playing the same T-shirts as last year, so you can use
Long
a
sleeve.
T-shirt.
Long sleeve this time.
Oh, okay.
A little bit warmer, yeah.
It's the same. Is it
It's the
look?
same design. I
Okay.
don't know if it's the same color.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I do need to know if I'm going to be allowed to float.
We could make that work.
Just wondering.
Okay, again, the foundation, our great foundation, is having its next board meeting on November 20th at 7:45. It's always great to have a trustee attend. And one of the issues that we might be talking about will indeed be our circulation desk project, and urging them to consider support. It's early, but it's really not too early. We've already made presentations about this at the September meeting. In terms of the Friends, for the first time, the Friends are having an antiquarian book sale. They have over 700 books that technically qualify as antiquarian. That will be on November 30th. It will be in that meeting room right behind us. And then the following 2 days will be their typical book sale. But usually in December, it's a holiday book sale, so there's lots of great books, giftable books, that we encourage people to visit, to patronize. The Friends, like the foundation, are tremendously supportive. They typically provide us with over $70,000 to $80,000 of money annual basis. Most of our programs are as a result of Friends donations. So the support that people lend, whether it be buying a book or becoming a member for a very modest $10 fee, goes to the library. Their board meeting, their holiday board meeting, will be December 6th. And I would encourage if a trustee or two could attend.
is that the Posto? Or they do?
No, it's actually it's at Amy, the co-president.
Oh, I'm
of
getting
Tone.
confused.
It's a lovely house,
No,
great food, and it's usually the meeting in which they approve the budget for 2018. And I'm done, Chuck.
Thank you, Tom.
Can you send out those dates to
Yep,
us?
happy to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Both, you said Tuesday.
All of them, both the foundation and all the Friends opportunities.
Thanks, Tom. Personnel report.
I do have a brief personnel report. I'm really excited to announce that thanks to board support and the voter support, we have 2 positions that were funded, and we have made a decision for both of the positions. As you folks remember, we had a children's library assistant, bilingual. We needed a fully fluent Spanish speaker in our children's area because we have such a tremendous Spanish population. We wanted to connect with those folks and make them welcome and help them as best we can. After a round of interviews, we had over 20 candidates. We narrowed it down to 9, then we narrowed it down to 4, and we made a decision. Yesterday, the committee unanimously selected one of our part-time staff members, Maria Hernandez, to take the job. She's agreed to, and she's a true success story. She came here from Mexico. She learned English in our ESL program downstairs. We hired her as a page in children's. She did a tremendous job. She got a job as an hourly clerk, and now she's got a full-time job working in the children's area. So it's a great story, and she's going to be great. She's a terrific person.
That's great.
Maybe I need a motion to approve that.
Yes, if you would approve the motion to hire Maria Hernandez for the Children's Library Assistant bilingual, starting salary, annual salary will be $47,346. Her start date will be December 4th.
Also moved.
Oh, I got it first. So moved.
Greg, second.
Greg, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Second, personnel report. Again, thanks to the board's support and the public, we were able to hire a part-time person in the teen area, not a librarian, but someone who could work with our teens in a proactive way to provide programming, guidance, support. And we had a good round of interviews, and we hired a young woman. Her name is Michelle Johnson, and her start day will be this Monday, and that is what day? I don't have the
So moved.
Monday, yeah.
13th.
So
13th.
moved.
And her salary is $22.76, and it's 19 hours a week.
Teams, leaving it, yeah.
She's an independent contractor. She's not a civil service person.
Is that what she's part-time?
She is part-time, but she is,
Okay.
but, yeah, so, and that's it.
You made a motion to,
So moved, yes.
what's the second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Moving on to the committee reports, the Budget Committee, I don't think we don't have a report, we haven't met yet, but we will upon the review of the audited financials and sort of a look at the budget year-to-date, we'll start doing our thing in anticipation of next year. Building and Grounds Committee, is there any report?
Yeah, nothing at the moment, and I think the budget, the buildings and grounds, unless there's update on the proposal, has what they need in order for finance to look at the fund balance and whether we can recommend that project go forward.
And just one question for you, Tom. What's the update on the tile work at the children's library in
Great.
terms of the repair?
Happy story there. Thanks to the work of the woman that ran the partnership fundraiser 20 plus years ago, Mickey Facina, she and her family worked very hard and were able to determine all of the bricks that have disintegrated. We've ordered them. They are here in the building. We had a meeting with our mason last Friday. He sent the proposal actually last night. And we're looking at the proposal, and what we're hoping to do is to go forward. There has to be a percentage of the total contract paid to the mason before he starts. And what we're hoping is that we can start this project again, either in November or December. With the weather being the caveat, if it's problematic, we may need to wait to spring. But everything is in place. We're ready to repair that sidewalk and bring it back to where it was. All the people that donated money and had names on bricks, they will all be back in that walkway.
Better than that.
Better, it's true.
May I ask, is this scope of work include restoring the underlayment?
Yes.
To what degree? Is he going to dig down 8 inches and put rebar in?
Yes, he's using rebar. Yep. Because our goal is to fix it and not just do a short-term fix, but a fix that will last as long as possible. One of the reasons why we've had this disintegration is that our custodians know enough not to use salt on those sidewalks, but the city has used a sort of salt product that has caused the bricks to disintegrate. And we've spoken to them about maybe being less aggressive in that use. But our men know exactly how to maintain this, and our mason is going to restore that space, that walkway back to where it was, and it should last for many years.
Thank you, Tom. Community Relations Foundation, I mean, you sort of covered it, I think. And any other items folks want to raise? Okay. Finance, Treasury, and Audit Committee. Maybe I'll kick off, and I can't believe I'm about to say this. So the agreement that we thought we sort of had inked and finalized and I signed with the school board, sort of formalizing what we already knew to be the case, that it was the responsibility of the school district to, issue debt on our behalf. There was we'll use the phrase misunderstanding in terms of we thought the version that we signed and executed was complete and agreed by the school district. So it was sent to the school district, and they reacted poorly and said, this is not the version we've agreed to. It's not final. Our attorney hasn't, given the go-ahead. And so it is back in the court, I think, of the attorneys to hopefully finally sort of finalize this. So
yeah, I was hoping to have a report tonight. I did reach out to our attorney via email, and then I called him this early afternoon. I did not get a response. I can't tell you where this agreement stands, but I will make sure you folks know at the meeting, but prior to that, I'll let you know.
If you could let me know sort of by middle of next week, because I'll put a call into the president of the school board if it's not resolved. If we're not sort of resolved and agreed with this thing by mid next week, I'm happy to make that call.
Thank you, Chuck.
Getting a bit much. And I think the next item was we've got to meet and figure out whether we can fund the theater HVAC. So we will do that. Personnel Committee.
So I thought I was going to recommend something to the trustees about survivors' benefits, but I had a conversation with everybody on the Personnel Committee, and my understanding was wrong. So everything we decided, we agreed upon. I need to go back and have the conversation with them again, because what I thought was the case in terms of what was offered was not. And so I had a conversation with Yadira and Damon. I guess I don't have to talk to you now.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry. Not sure really how that works, but I had a conversation with Yadira and Damon.
Separately. You spoke with each of us separately.
I had two conversations, and we all were on the same page. So we're going to come back to you in December, and maybe since he's gone, it would be, I don't know. We'll have to discuss that.
Committee assignments need to be revamped.
But that's not what I'm talking about. And we really do need 3 people to kind of have this discussion. I don't want it to just be 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
So in his absence, I don't know who that person is.
Chuck could appoint somebody
Okay,
as
or
a
it could be
temporary,
Chuck.
or
Okay.
Chuck himself.
Okay.
Does anybody want to be part of that?
I'd be happy to assist if I could.
Okay.
I appoint Trustee Varian to
Trustee Varian, I will be reaching out to you in the next
Personnel Committee.
week or so, and we'll have.
But there was some sense of urgency to the issue, though? I mean,
There was.
And there still is.
And there still is.
But we've got to make a thoughtful decision.
The decision I made was based, when I talked to you, Dara, it was based on wrong information. So I cannot possibly go forward with that based on the wrong information. It's not fair to her. She's not here.
okay.
If she was here, we would. But she's not here.
Anything else from the Personnel Committee?
No.
Any reports from the Policy Committee?
No.
And then I think our chair of our Special Projects Committee is Yadira. Broadcasting of library board meetings. Well,
Here it is.
we have begun. So it's sad that Yadira's not here, but in her absence, big congratulations to Yadira for getting this one over the finish line. And then I don't think we have. Do we have any sort of Rockwell update?
Well, we are moving forward. I've been in touch with our insurance agency and shared the strange situation of the appraisals that were very much at variance with each other.
Yep.
And I asked our contact to come up with rates that more typically match what we believe the true value of the Rockwell is. He sent me some values, but we still had some questions about whether or not some other elements that relate to ensuring this particular piece of art is represented in these numbers. But we have a conversation nearly complete. We also have a sense of what the cost would be in terms of technology if we bring the Rockwell back, because of course, we want to have a system that will be adequate. We had worked with the insurance company previously, and they approved our plan. I have the report that they sent us. And also, the other components relate to, once we get all of those things in place, bringing the Rockwell back, using the appropriate transportation mode, and the methodology for installing it. And the good news is, it looks like the monies that we'll be saving on our insurance premiums, we can use that money for the upfront capital costs.
great.
To pay for the security enhancements that we very much need. There will be an ongoing operating fee to cover the security for the Rockwell. It still is in far less expensive than the enhanced values of the Rockwell.
That's great. I'd like to set a goal for ourselves to get this back to the library, certainly in the first half of next year, but by the end of the first quarter. I think it's been too long.
I think we can meet that.
Okay, good.
With a big
Good.
party.
With
A big party of some sort.
some fanfare.
Yeah.
Are there any other agenda items anybody wants to discuss?
Did we talk about any downtown development?
We did.
The beginning. Yeah.
I wasn't here, was I? Was I
Yeah.
here at the time?
You're here in body.
Congratulations again, Dan.
Wow. I haven't slept in 2 weeks, so I'm missing it.
Go home and sleep.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm going to then, actually, maybe we have one final piece of business.
And that is?
Are you tender your resignation?
Oh, here it is. I wrote it up right here. Nothing formal,
So do
but
we,
it's in writing.
we probably need to accept,
Yeah, we do.
I am going to move to accept trustee Damon Marr's resignation dated 11/9/17. Do we have a second?
Oh, I'm
Can't
stuck.
go,
I'm
Damon.
stuck.
You can't go. I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Reluctant.
We'll miss you.
We'll miss you.
Thank you,
We
David.
look forward to your
I'll be
continued
here.
presence.
On behalf of the staff, we thank you for your work.
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.